Hey guys, it's Cassie. Welcome back to part 3 of our antique craft video series for creating this beautiful junk journal. So we are doing more page folding in this video since this journal will have 2 signatures. The last video was folding the first signature and this one is folding the second. So I am just jumping right in, starting to fold up the pages for the signature. This journal, or this signature rather, I want to start with this green antique music book cover, but it is quite fragile. So when I started to fold it, it was splitting in the spine where it will be bound actually. So I just grabbed some masking tape and I'm just using that to reinforce the spine a bit. This is actually a vintage roll of masking tape that I had found like at a garage sale, I think. But once I run out of it, I'm just going to use regular like plain masking tape from like the store. So if you don't have access to vintage, like obviously just make do with what you have. I think that's most important. So I'm just really trying to fold the pages all like that. That's the first step, as it usually is when I'm making a signature for a journal. But because I've already made the first signature, I kind of know how I want the layout to go. So I know that I want to have the tip-in pages, and I know that I want to embellish some of them, and so I'm kind of trying to also plan some of that as I go along, rather than, you know, going through the signature 1,000 times and trying to figure out where I want to add these things in. So in the last video, a few of you guys asked me some questions about the tip-in pages, and so I'm going to try to explain that a little bit better when I actually like go to mount one of them. So hopefully it becomes a little bit more clear in this video. So yeah, hopefully you guys are really enjoying this video. Or video series, I guess. I've gotten quite a few like really positive comments about the series on the whole, which makes me feel good because it is it is really outside my comfort zone to kind of work all in one like neutral color way. Yeah, like I think everyone kind of has their comfort zone and where they feel happiest creating. Like happiest may be the wrong word, but most comfortable. That's why it's called the comfort zone, right? So yeah, I'm really enjoying making this journal though. So happy was definitely the wrong word. I think that it's coming out really pretty, and it's fun to work with things that are not like obviously I work with all these things normally, but in a different way, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I decided to use this antique ledger page as one of those tip-in pages, and so I'm just trying to show you guys maybe hopefully a little bit better like how that works. But yeah, again, I'm not going to mount it yet. I am just going to place the page where I want it to end up, and just placing it in my journal signature. Yeah, so I need a few more pages. I try to count my pages as I go along, and normally if I'm just folding pages and not doing the tip-ins, I can just count the number of pages and then double that, and that's how many pages will be in the signature, or I guess quadruple it. And and that's how many pages will be in the signature. So on this centerfold, I am adding a piece of French book page to extend the page out, and I'm just using a pencil to mark where I need to end my glue rather than trying to, guesstimate on my book page that I'm adding on. I'm just going to add it to the base page, which I think is actually much easier. So yeah, just like mark slightly inside where the end of your add-on page goes and glue from there. And I do end up just trimming this down at this point because I didn't want to fold it over and lose some length on that page. So I'm just gonna like trim down the top and bottom and move on to another section of the signature. So now I'm going to show you guys, hopefully, a better process on adding a tip-in to a page that's already there. So you're going to start with the folded, like coffee stain paper or whatever paper you want to tip in to. And you will place your glue on the opposite page from the one that the tip-in page will be folded, like be free next to. So on the glue side, it's actually bound into the journal, and then on the free side, it's actually able to turn as if it's just a regular page in the journal. So this antique ledger page is actually quite a bit longer than the page that it's tipped into, and so I'll eventually turn it into a pocket, and then I just take the excess of the page and like glue it to the page that it's tipped into. So hopefully that, oh gosh, I really feel like I'm not explaining that well still. But yeah, I think if you rewind or like go back and rewatch that part a few times, it'll be pretty explanatory. I'm kind of a visual learner, and so watching someone do something is actually really helpful. I think at this point I'm like talking to someone. Yeah, like I usually record in the mornings, and so people start to wake up, or Lennon will come in and I'll talk to him for a second and get him ready with breakfast and come back and record some more. So if you see my hands moving, that's me talking. I talk with my hands, and yeah. So this Godey's Magazine book page, I actually decided to join with the receipt page here. And so I'm just trimming the receipt page down a tiny bit because I don't want to cover the pretty hat that's on that Godey's Magazine. So as I am halfway through trimming it down, I realized that I was using the wrong fold line. Yeah, so where I ripped or where I tore the page down was actually my fold line for tipping the receipt in, but because the receipt was already folded, I was thinking, oh, that's where I'm going to tip it in, but no, that was the original fold line, and I actually messed up. So I just have like this very narrow strip to tip it in with, but I think that's okay. So I'm just joining the two shorter pages together to make one page that's roughly the same width as my journal. So yeah, if that ever happens and you end up with like a tiny, tiny strip like I have here, you can always reinforce with some tape or some washi. I guess washi is tape, but or like some fabric, or something that adds some extra interest to the journal page, and that also kind of hides the fact that like you did actually mess up and that's not how it was intended to be. But I think that the strip that I used to glue the two pages together was actually wide enough, so I don't decide to do anything to it at this point. So now I'm going back to the ledger book page that we previously tipped in, and I'm just folding the bottom section up to create a pocket. And yeah, I was realizing as I was gluing that I don't actually want to glue it to the tipped in, like the base page of the tip in. And so I just trimmed at the spine line, like the spine fold, and that smaller piece, you could choose to rip it off. I chose to just glue it to the base page on the other side. And then I just glued my pocket together as if it were just a regular, normal page in the journal. But the page itself is actually wider than the journal, and so I'm going to actually fold that little bit over and just glue it to itself. I think that it serves to kind of reinforce the page edge because yeah, it's really old and really brittle, but like it's brittle in a different way because it's some kind of a cotton paper, and so when they get brittle, they're not as fragile as like a tree paper would be. So yeah, here I'm just folding it over and I'm just going to glue that part down. I did not glue it on the side that has the pocket because that would significantly shorten the pocket width. So I'm folding it over and gluing it opposite the pocket page. So if you guys are following me on Instagram, you will have seen that I made a pretty big decision this week. I have been toying with the idea for a few years now to open a booth space. I received some encouragement from a friend of mine who came to visit me recently. And yeah, and it just felt right at this point to open a space in an antique mall. And so yeah, I'm expanding, I guess, Dust to Roses to be in brick and mortar. And I was thinking about it, like most people are looking to go the opposite direction, like they're in brick and mortar and want to expand online. And I operate pretty much 100% online, and I'm looking to expand to brick and mortar, which I just think is so funny. So anyway, I am slated to move in starting on Friday, like the 21st of May, and I'm so excited. But yeah, I've been so busy this week. Like I was expecting there to be, a month or two wait period where I could prepare, but spaces in my town just go so fast. Like we're actually a pretty big antiquing destination in Texas, and so yeah, like if you find a space available and you want it, you have to snap it up or it's going to be gone. So yeah. Anyway, back to the journal. I am like reordering the pages and kind of thinking about final layout on the signature at this point. And I have decided that there was too many just kind of blank pages. And so I'm trying to break the blank space and decided to do a little bit of collaging on this page just to add some interest and extra texture. And I do end up using this calling or a trade card as a little pocket, and it has a scripture on it. So I just love adding like tiny bits of religious ephemera into a journal. I don't want to overwhelm with religious ephemera, because I realize that not everyone who purchases one of my journals is necessarily very religious, but I do like to add a little bit in, because I do kind of use this as like a prayer meditation. While I'm crafting, I'm like having a prayer time for the person who will end up purchasing my journal. So like praying over their life and praying over their creative journey and their journaling, and that it will be helpful for them, and all those things. So that's a little insight into like kind of my my own mental process on making a journal. I do that for you guys, and yeah, so adding in a tiny bit of religious ephemera, like a prayer card, or this little trade card with the scripture on the back, is part of that process. So yeah, I'm just toying, like auditioning different pieces to use on this collage, and I do end up using the big piece of handmade paper because I think that it adds some interest, but it still leaves a lot of space for journaling. So my vision for this journal is to be primarily like a very neutral writing journal. Sorry, I kind of have the hiccups. Yeah, I'm drinking my morning coffee and doing my voiceover. Like, this is the only quiet part of my day. So, yeah, I normally do my voiceovers early in the morning. So, if you think when I first start my videos, wow, she sounds really tired, it's because I literally probably just woke up. So yeah, but I'll normally do like 2 or 3 videos in a morning, voiceover wise. So I don't do it every single morning, just on some mornings. But yeah, this is my first video of the day that I'm doing a voiceover on. So yeah, I did just use like a piece of that letter at the top. It had already been used for a different collage, so it wasn't like I just tore this letter for this journal. It was something that I've already been using for collage fodder. And it is from a druggist, or yeah, I think that one says druggist on the top of the letter. But I had a bunch of letters from an apothecary. It actually said apothecary on the envelopes. And they all had letterhead that matched the envelopes. But this one was very fragile and kind of falling apart. So I did not sell it. I did have a sale in my Instagram shop last year. Oh, look here. Sorry, I just realized as I'm doing this voiceover that this is how I decided to reinforce the short tip-in on the Godey's or Peterson's magazine page and the receipt. So sorry guys, I was just not observant while I was doing my voiceover, but yeah, this is how I decided to do a reinforcement on that. So obviously the back of the receipt paper was a neutral blank page, so I decided to break up that space and also reinforce that little tiny tip-in. So the only problem I have with doing this process is that the page that ends up with the glue, like the magazine page side, not the receipt side, where the collaged on part ends has a tendency to crease. And so, you have to be very careful to not use, I guess, a paper that's too thick. This is like an antique French encyclopedia page that I've used, so it's pretty thin. So I'm not very worried about it creasing and breaking later on. But yeah, that's something to be mindful of while you're working. Yeah, so I'm like jabbering about my antique booth space and did not realize that I was on the actual video part, like reinforcing that. So yeah, this is kind of where I start to put the two signatures in the journal together and just see how everything is laying out. So I do a flip through of the whole journal as it is now. And that kind of helps me like visualize, okay, well, I have some embellishments here and then a bunch of blank spaces or blank pages rather. And yeah, so at this point I decide I want to add something to create some visual interest on the first page of this signature, the second signature. So I just decided to use this antique like stock certificate. I think it's antique. I seem to remember it being antique. So I'm just going to glue it onto the cover of the second signature and add it as a flip out. Yeah, now I want to show you guys maybe a little bit slower and less distracting tutorial or process on adding a tip-in to a page. So here I'm showing you guys the coffee stain paper is just folded in half, and I'm showing you guys the side that will have the free flipping page, and then I'm showing you like I'm going to add glue to the opposite side on the base page. So I just add a line of glue to the opposite side of where the free side of the page will be. So on the opposite side of the spine, if you will. And then I use the fold that exists on the base page as a guide for where to fold my tip-in. So that kind of creates like an additional page in your journal, and is just a really easy way to add some visual interest to your journal without like too much effort, I think. Like in the construction of the journal. Obviously, once it's already bound, you can't add a tip-in without like tipping it into the spine. I mean, you could technically, I'm like contradicting myself right now. You could technically like tip it into the other side, the other page, which I've done that in the past too. Yeah, so scratch that. So now I'm going back to the centerfold on this signature and just adding a strip of this vintage wallpaper. I do want to save some of this for each of my 3 journals that I'm making. So this is like maybe the piece for this journal. I'm not sure if I'll use some on like a piece of ephemera that I'll make, or you know, somewhere else in this journal, but I know for sure there is a piece of this wallpaper in this journal. And yeah, so this wallpaper is going to be one of the elements that kind of exists in all 3 of my journals, and kind of holds them together as a cohesive collection. So yeah, I'm just going to go to the back of the signature, and I had toyed with the idea, like audition this envelope as like a flip out, and decided not to commit at that point. Like I just wasn't sure about it, and at this point I've decided yeah, I'm gonna add it as if the flap on my fold out on the back part of the signature is an extension of the envelope, or like attached to the envelope. So you can still see the pocket, or the window rather, and the envelope itself is open, so it just folds out. So it's an extension of the fold out that was already there. And yeah, so I'm going to collage over the white or coffee stained part of the envelope with just some scraps that I had on my desk, and a little bit of this hymnal book page. It was like extra tatty, so I didn't want to use it as a journal page, but it's fine for collaging and just kind of adding some extra interest. So normally I wait until I am doing my stitching on my signatures to kind of decide where I want to add tip-ins and textile pockets. But yeah, I completed this part of the process a little bit faster than expected. So I'm just going to go through and start kind of adding some textile pockets. I did decide to use the piece of lace that I had placed in my kits for the series. So I'm just going to add a little pocket here to this French document. And I am not taking a lot of care to like trim it exactly to the edge of the page. Like, I feel like that just kind of adds to like the aesthetic of this style of journal. So I will trim it down a bit because I can use the bottom section. Like, that's actually quite a bit. So I'm going to use the bottom section as a belly band in the second signature. And then I've just got a little bit that I trimmed off of the outside edge that I can use elsewhere also as like a, a tab or some kind of an embellishment on a piece of ephemera or something. So I'm just doing a tiny flip through, and I decided I needed to add like the white space on the outside edge of this page next to my little tuck spot is just too much for me. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of handmade paper from Heather, Rose Hill paper, and yeah, that just helps to kind of break up that white space to me. Although the paper is pretty much the same color, it just has a little extra texture. So yeah, that that helps to me. So now I'm deciding I want to add this like large vintage tag as a page in the journal. So I'm just deciding, like, how do I want to do this? Do I want to tip it in somewhere, or somehow use another page to attach it? Yeah, but I did decide that I want to add it to this specific location because it creates a really nice layered effect for the start of the signature, and I felt like that was kind of lacking before adding this in. So I am going to use a coffee stain doily to add this tag in as a journal page. So yeah, my only advice for gluing a paper doily into your journal is to make sure that all the holes are laying flat and that you rub off all the excess glue. Otherwise, it will also glue the page right next to it. So if you're using Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix or the 3-in-1 glue, it actually rubs off pretty easily when it's kind of semi-dry. Yeah, so I'm just using a piece of masking tape to kind of reinforce that back section because the tag is such a different paper weight than the paper doily. So yeah, then I'm just adding a little piece of washi tape to add some extra interest, and I'm going to move on. So yeah, I'm just going to go through and maybe add just a little bit more details, but that's pretty much the last like major step in this video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, please do give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate every single one of those little thumbs up that appears on the video. If you have any questions or like comments about the video, please just drop them in the comments below, and I try to respond to every single one of you guys. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so you know when I post my next video. Until then, hope you have a really great rest of your weekend, and happy crafting!